The UN General Assembly condemned the nearly 60-year-old U.S. embargo on Cuba for the 29th year in a row Wednesday, calling for it to end by a vote of 184 to 2. Only Israel voted with the U.S. against the resolution.
Here's a summary of the article.
The UN General Assembly condemned the nearly 60-year-old U.S. embargo on Cuba for the 29th year in a row Wednesday, calling for it to end by a vote of 184 to 2. Only Israel voted with the U.S. against the resolution. Brazil, which voted with the United States in 2019, did not vote. The vote was cancelled last year due to coronavirus for the first time since 1992. In 2016, the U.S. abstained for the first time in the annual UN vote amid a historic rapprochement with Cuba under former President Barack Obama. Cubans, as all people, deserve the right to freedom of expression, assembly, culture, said Rodney Hunter, political coordinator at the U.S. mission to the UN. We encourage this body to support the Cuban people in their quest to determine their own future, he told the assembly. Only a vote in Congress can end the embargo, which Havana says has caused billions of dollars in damage to the island's economy.
This post received a score of 5,900, with an upvote ratio of 96%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Wikipedia, Cuban thaw.
Also,
when is the US going to add itself to that list?
We're the good guys no matter what.
It isn't what that matters, it's who.
It should end. At this point, the sole purpose of the embargo is to guarantee Republican votes in South Florida.
And it's working. They'll stop the embargo after they make voting illegal.
For context, Cuba and Israel have been voting against each other at every opportunity for half a century now. The animosity is to the extent that Cuba was the single most unnecessary belligerent in the Yom Kippur War. I don't mean token supporter or arms supplier. I mean that the tiny North American island sent a few thousand troops halfway across the world to the Middle East to join the surprise attack on Israel. The extent of bidirectional butthurt between the two is fascinating.
Cuba has a fascinating history of substantial foreign intervention for an island of its size. Especially in Angola. Who can ever forget Angola? On a serious note though, Castro had balls to go to war with literal South Africa, which not to mention at the time was a core ally with the Israelis and even possessed nukes in the later years of the war and apartheid.
The embargo is purely PR at this point. It's done to appease a particular voting bloc in Florida. It hasn't worked in over 60 years and pretty much everyone else in the world has moved on.
Greater than pretty much everyone else in the world has moved on. Including the 99% of Americans who couldn't care less about Cuba.
Of course they, US and Israel, did.
Well, what do you expect? Cuba is the only non-Muslim majority country, except North Korea, who doesn't recognize Israel.
The American tax regulations lets taxpayers write off donations to non-profits in Canada, Mexico, and Israel. Money Equals Power IRS Publication 526. Under the U.S.-Israel Income Tax Treaty, a contribution to an Israeli charitable organization is deductible if, and to the extent the contribution would have been treated as a charitable contribution if the organization had been created or organized under U.S. law. To deduct your contribution to an Israeli charity, you must have income from sources in Israel.
You know that doesn't mean anything, right? Writing off donations doesn't save the company any money. They still have to make the donation.
It lowers the amount of income tax the company pays. That's why some billionaires are philanthropists.
Do you want to spend $10 to save $4? Because that's what you are describing.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.